Hi, I'm going to talk you through a basic application of the dollar symbol within a formula in Excel. So what the dollar symbol does in Excel, when you create a calculation with it in, that part of the calculation will remain fixed. So let me show you what I mean by that. I have a spreadsheet here where I've worked out on a line by line basis the total spend for, in this case, apple, pears, oranges and grapes. Now I would then like to, in the loyalty column, multiply this particular total here, so 10, by 10%. Now the maths that sits behind this is, if you multiply a number by a percentage, it will give you that percent of that particular number. So here is how I do the calculation to achieve this. So equals on the keyboard, click onto the cell, in this case, which contains the 10, multiplied by, if I then click onto the 10% at the top, happy days. If I press enter, that's going to give me, can you see 10 by 10%, which gives me 1. Now the problem comes now is, if I drag that formula down like so, what you'll see is it doesn't really do what I would like it to do, because I would like to, on the next line, work out what 10% of 20 is, 10% of 3, 10% of 32, and so on and so forth. Now the reason why this doesn't work is, if I double click in the first cell, can you see this is D4 multiplied by E1? So the blue box is here, the red box is here. If I press enter, I'm going to double click onto the second box. Can you see this is D5 multiplied by E2? So can you see the blue box has moved down by a row, but also the red box has moved down by a row. Now this is what's called relative cell addressing. And it's a bit of a techie term for basically when you drag a formula down, the things that it is actually looking for are also going to move down in the same position. So if it was 3 above before, the red box, it's still going to be 3 above when we drag it down. But in this case, we want it to kind of stay fixed. So look, just to exaggerate this, if I go to the next one and double click, can you see the blue box has moved down by 1 and the red box has also moved down by 1? Now I'm going to show you how to fix this. So rather than the red box moving when we drag the formula, we can make it so the red box will stay fixed on the 10%, which means it will always grab the appropriate line item and multiply it by the 10% at the top. Now it's not much of a difference versus what I did originally, but the difference, though subtle, is actually massive in its impact to what the formula does. So let's go back to that formula. Click into here, equals on the keyboard. I'm going to click just onto my number 10, multiplied by 10%. Now the only main difference you're looking for here is we want to kind of anchor this E1 so it doesn't move away from the top. So I click anywhere, either inside the E1 part of the formula or to the right of it or maybe to the left, as long as the blinker is kind of touching it. Then on the keyboard shortcut for this is, if I press the F4 key on the keyboard, so along the top, you've got your F1, your F2, your F3, so it's the F4 key, that will put the dollar symbol into that part of the formula, and that's effectively nailing that down. Now, you don't have to use the F4 key, you can manually, if you like, put a dollar in front of the E and put a dollar in front of the 1. So in simple terms, this is saying stop on column E, stop on row 1. So it's kind of locking it in both directions. But the benefit to me now is if I press enter to seal the deal on that formula, click back onto this answer here, grab the blob and drag it down, can you see it's now working out 10% of every single one of those lines? And if I change that to 20%, can you see it ripples all the way down that list and changes those answers? Now, if I were to double click on any one of these cells, any one of those cells going down, can you see with the dollar symbol, it continues to look at that cell at the top. Now, the dollar symbol, I mentioned before relative cell addressing. This, the technical term, is called absolute cell addressing. I think of Relative cell addressing is being free and easy, where things move, and that would be like the blue box. And absolute cell addressing, as you are almost nailing that particular item down. So that red box remains fixed and does not move. So that is how to, a basic application of how to use the dollar symbol in a formula in Excel.